Hello comrades, I'm an EAN activist based in Oxford. Just like to give a speech on the importance of workers and student unity in the struggle that we're facing at the minute, and it's incredibly important that we can unite both movements, both the student movement and the workers movement that we're seeing getting into action already. And I mean, that was seen last year after the student protest, after Millbank, that students actually went to the RMT picket lines where they were on strike, and that showed directly how students can get involved within the workers movement itself. But all our struggles really are one. No matter how much the government tries to divide us using divide and rule into students, public sector workers, private sector workers, black, white, whatever, unemployed, disabled or whatever, they can't do this because because together we're strong. They're scared of us, basically. They're scared that we can unite together. That's why they didn't let the electricians and the students march together and kettled the electricians on Blackfriars Bridge. They're scared that the workers and students can move together. They're scared of democracy, and that's why they're putting in the technocrats all across Europe, Monty, and now they're trying to do this in Greece as well. But they're scared of people power. They're scared of the Occupy movement. That's why they're taking in the police to break the Occupy movement in New York, and that's why they're trying to do it in LSX at St Paul's. But they're scared of us. But this is a struggle that's bigger than just austerity. It's bigger than just a fight back against government cuts. It's about, as John McDonald was saying, it's about what society we want to live in, and what the society I want to live in, and I want my children to live in. And it's definitely not the society this government is trying to put on us. It's a society built basically for profit, where marketised industries, marketised education, the whole of our economy privatised, basically run simply for profit, not for people. And that's what the student movement has been against, and that's what we will fight for, and that's why we'll stand together with workers fighting for all their different struggles. If I sum up now, if I can just take one thing from what I'd say, it's that the workers that are going on strike on the 30th, you're not alone. When you go on your picket lines, students will be with you. When you go on your marches, students will be with you. In this struggle, you're not alone. We fight together, we struggle together, and we're going to win together. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I think this must have been one of the most inspiring and frustrating years of my life. When you think back to earlier this year and the events in Egypt, when you've looked around Europe and the struggles there, you see now people beginning to struggle in America, and you remember as well Wisconsin. The list goes on and on and on. But it's also been a frustrating year for us because I'm a teacher in Scotland. I might not sound like a teacher from Scotland, but I am, but trust me, a teacher in Scotland. We were faced with a pay offer. It was a pay freeze, 2-year pay freeze, and changes to our terms and conditions that were going to be very, very damaging for us. We balloted, and we returned in that ballot on a 54% turnout and 96% rejection of the pay freeze and the changes, and we were in favour as well of going out on industrial action. Now, unfortunately, despite that massive turnout, our union leaders backed down and accepted the pay freeze and forced through a very, very bad deal for us. So it's frustrating because you can get turnouts. Nevertheless, I was really, really encouraged when my union returned another 54% turnout with an 80% vote to go out on strike on November the 30th. Despite the fact that we'd been sold out just a few months ago, the members were still willing to fight. We had a conference in Scotland last year. They're trying to bring about changes to education and teachers' working conditions in Scotland, which would bring about the kind of changes that I think you've got in England, which could do us a lot of damage. Without going into them too much, we had a recall conference in Scotland last week, and it wasn't about pensions. We brought the union together at a time when we're 2 weeks away from a pension strike, but we weren't going to talk about pensions. But every time a speaker got up in that meeting and mentioned pensions, mentioned the ballot, mentioned pay, it resonated through that room, and people made the links between the changes they want to bring about to education in Scotland and the pay, the conditions and our pensions. And you can be sure that when we go on strike on November the 30th, it isn't just about pensions, it's about everything. And it's not just about Scotland, it's not just about Britain, it's about the world, because these changes are going along from country to country to country. A few weeks ago, when they came out with a list of the things Berlusconi had to do if he wanted to stay in power, there was things like changes to pensions, making it easier for the public sector workers to be sacked. Exactly the same things that we face here. Now, I think November the 30th is not just a one-day action. It has to be something that's much bigger. It has to be the beginning of something. And we need to make links, and that's what today's about. It's making links, all the people in here joining together to make sure that the kind of deal we had forced on us in Scotland can't be forced on us all right across the country. I want to end with, if I can remember, I'll probably paraphrase it, but there was a delegate to our conference last week who was making the kind of links that we're making here today, and he said the government in this country have declared a civil war on ordinary working class people, and we need to be sure to make sure that we fight back, and we fight back until we win.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Jeffrey, and I'm chair of the Campaign Against Climate Change Trade Union Group, and I wanted to speak for a few minutes about climate jobs and why I think climate jobs are so important to our struggle and to the fight against austerity. Why climate jobs? First of all, I would say climate jobs for this reason. We have a crisis of unemployment. We have a crisis of youth unemployment. We have 1.2 million people, young people, rotting on the dole, who are being demonised by the politicians, who are being demonised by the media. They've been offered no hope whatsoever. I don't know if people read in The Guardian last week, the government have a new ploy now, where they are forcing young people to work for their benefits. And we, the taxpayer, are subsidising the big multinational companies, the Sainsbury's, the Tesco's, whatever. Those kids are having to work for their benefits, whereas a year ago they would have had to be paid for that work. That's the kind of hope, that's the kind of future that the government is offering. I want to argue that climate jobs actually gives those young people some hope, some future, some sense that they can actually engage in socially advantageous work that is high skilled, that is well paid. When we talk about climate jobs, we're talking about jobs that need to be done. Insulating our homes, reducing the energy that we use in our homes, dealing with fuel poverty. We're talking about people being able to build and organise a public transport system that doesn't force people into their cars, that doesn't allow opportunist politicians to claim and curry favour because they're cutting the fuel duty whilst all the time aggravating the situation. A proper public transport system in our cities up and down the country, and most of all we're talking about climate jobs, whereby people can actually engage in organising the kind of renewable energy that we need globally and that we need in this country to reduce emissions. And there's another reason why we need climate jobs, and the other reason is this, and it's very much a global issue. The climate, we have an economic crisis, but we also have a climate crisis. It's a real crisis. There is no amount of lies from the climate skeptics like Lord Lawson that will make that climate crisis go away. It is real for the most poorest people in the world. The poorest people in this crisis have contributed least, and they will suffer the most, and that's why we need climate jobs as well. The Durban talks, which we'll talk about, are about to take place. David Cameron is not even bothering to attend those talks. He's not bothering to attend the talks next year in Rio+20. He's got the Queen's Diamond Jubilee to worry about, and that's why he's not going to the talks. It's an absolute scandal. We need climate jobs because we need to put our people, our young people, back to work, and we need to resolve the climate crisis. The politicians are not going to do this for us. I urge you, please make climate jobs central to the opposition, to the resistance, to the struggle in every community, in every locality. I urge you to do that, to actually give some young people some hope and argue that we can deal with both the economic crisis and the environmental crisis.
Thank you very much, Max.
and we know what sort of trade union leadership we want, and I'm very glad that Max is actually on the NEC of Unison. I think that's a very good start. Okay, the attacks we face on our jobs, pensions, pay, conditions, and above all our public services are not the result of some financial imperative, despite what they tell us. It's an ideological attack that aims to further impoverish the lives of millions worldwide, the 99%, in order for the 1% to continue to get fabulously rich off our backs. And we have to keep reminding everybody of that. Yeah. They are united in their attacks on us, and we need to be united in our resistance to those attacks. We therefore stand with the brave revolutionaries and trade unionists in Egypt, in Syria, in Palestine, and across the Middle East. We stand with our sisters and brothers resisting austerity in Greece, in Spain, in Italy, and across Europe. We stand with the Occupy movement in Wall Street, in Auckland, at St. Paul's and worldwide. And as trade unionists, we will defend their right to not be evicted, and we will stand with the occupiers at St. Paul's. We stand with students and workers in Chile, fighting for free public education. We stand with students in Britain, fighting fees and privatisation and against the HE White Paper. And above all, we stand with all those that resist, and we defend the right to protest. But we need more than just resistance. We need to argue the alternative to unemployment, to austerity, to privatisation and to cuts, which is why I'm really pleased with today's launch of the Unite the Resistance Action Plan. And let's see what the main points are on that. I'll just give you the headlines, the details in the pamphlet which you should get. The headlines are this: the money is there. Equal rights for all. 1 million climate jobs. Protect and expand health and social care. Free state-funded public education from the cradle to the grave. Fair pensions for all. Build more council houses, invest in homes, and nationalise the public utilities. And in order to pay for it, we need to squeeze the rich. We need to be taxing the rich, and as Dennis Healy said in the 70s, until the pips squeak and we see the water in their eyes. We have a war to win. Let's unite and fight tooth and nail in order to win it. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Leila Ashraf. I'm here on behalf of the Stay the Family Home campaign, and today people are talking about unity and solidarity and standing together. And I want to talk about one family, because actually I know the emphasis is about the strikes and about the 30th of November and about the cats, but actually this family is being threatened by the local authorities in Manchester who want to remove their family home and make them all homeless, purely because one individual in that family is supposedly committed a crime that he's actually being punished for. He's actually serving 3 life sentences because, as the police tell us, he was radicalising people and encouraging them to commit terrorist acts. Now this is all based on 2 undercover police officers that befriended him for over a year, and that is the only evidence they have. Undercover police officers that made recordings which have not all been heard by the court, but it was the undercover police officer that gave evidence against this individual. So he is now paying for that crime. He's actually appealing against the 3 life sentences. But in the meantime, the authorities now want to remove the family from their home. This is a home that is owned by the wife and the daughter of this man that is in prison. It is not owned by the local authorities. It is their home. There is no link between what he did, apart from the fact that the home was where the 2 undercover police officers came and met this individual, came over for coffee, came over and had chats because they were friends. So they chose to use a home for supposed terrorist activities. But in the meantime, The police would like to remove the home from the family and make them homeless. And we say this is wrong. This is collective punishment. This family have done nothing wrong. And I want to make this clear also. Today is this family, but we also know it's not a coincidence that actually this test case is being tried in Manchester, the city where the head of the Labour Council came out after the riots and said those families whose children have been involved in the riots should lose their homes. This is all connected. Today it is this family. Tomorrow it could be some other activist. We know that the counter-terror laws have been abused and used to target activists around the country. So I say this, today it is a Muslim family. And the reason it's a Muslim family because actually it's quite easy under the present climate about the enemy within, the Muslim terrorist scare to target a Muslim family. But tomorrow it could be any one of our families, and this is why I say to you, go back to your union branches, go back to your workplaces and your community groups and raise this issue. Tell people about the campaign, Save the Family Home. That's the name of the website. And now what I'd like to do actually just quickly is to introduce Haris Farouk to explain who he is.
Well, Nyla's basically said everything, so I just want to keep it short and simple. Firstly, thank you for the people on my right for allowing me to stand on the stage and highlight the campaign. The basic facts are the family is suffering hell for the past 4 years. I've been involved in a terror trial myself. I was found acquitted, and 3 people that were convicted is a clear miscarriage of justice. Is history repeating itself? It was the Guildford 4, the Birmingham 6, and we will prove the Manchester 3. The campaign itself, we want to stress, has got nothing to do with the convictions directly. Obviously, the campaign is there because the convictions have taken place. But the family members have done nothing wrong. It's 3 generations that are facing eviction, including children, an 8-month-old baby, and we've been left with no alternative but to live on the streets. So please spread the word of the campaign and work on it as if it's your own family, because like Nyla said, it's us that are being tested on as if we're guinea pigs, and tomorrow there's no, who knows, it could be you next on the radar. So please make every effort to sign the petition, on the paper petition and the online petition, and keep up to date with the website. Thank you.
Dress sensing is good, but class knowledge might be a little bit better. I remember coming home from school in 1965, and I was really, really excited. I was 10 years old, and because the Daily Mail had said that tonight's episode of Blue Peter was going to be dedicated to the world's most famous rabbit. So I thought, bloody hell, 3/4 of an hour of Bugs Bunny. And I sat there waiting and waiting, and I hadn't a bloody clue who Peter the Rabbit was. And he went on for 45 minutes. And you might think that's an irrelevant story, but it's not. Because I sit watching the telly now, and I hear what they're talking about, but what they're not talking about is what everybody else is talking about. The one thing they won't mention, they will tell you about anything, except for the most important thing in Britain. And everybody in Britain understands what that is. If they didn't 12 months ago, they understand what it is now. Class. Everybody understands what class is, because they've been taught by the ruling class in the last 12 months. And I don't want David Cameron telling me, or anybody else in this country, that we shouldn't be looting, we should be saving up. Give me a list of everything that he's ever saved up for. And I don't want David Cameron telling me, you should pay off your credit card. What credit card has he ever had? And the reason people have credit cards, the ruling class change words. For credit card, use tick or slate. It's exactly the same thing. It's high interest for borrowing money to buy things that you can't afford. And we're in a situation now where class is the big issue. My daughter, who's 21, told me the other day that she'd written a book. She says, Dad, it's better than Chaps. I said, it'll be going some if it's better than Chaps. You know, it's better than Chaps, kid. I've got a bit more idea than him. She says, I've written a book and it's called, it's the best title, it'll be a big bestseller. I said, what's it called, Greta? She says, Bean Post Crap. I says, well, how many paragraphs, how many chapters is there? She says, there's no chapters, Dad, that's just a title, and it's in a cellophane wrapper, but it'll sell thousands before people find out. But it is crap, and a lot of people are beginning to realise that it's crap. I went to a funeral the other week. As you get to the age that I do, you start going to the funerals of the people that you learnt off when you first started getting involved in the movement. And I went to the funeral, and there was a debate between 4 or 5 75-year-olds about things. And this lad next to me, he said, I didn't know this lad, and he says, bloody hell, 1963, I remember it well. He says, I wanted to buy a motorbike sidecar. He says, I had 2 young kids and a wife and a mortgage, and I was desperate to get a job without a pension. And I took a day off work, and I spent all day ringing round Barnsley to find anywhere where there were a job without a pension, and I couldn't bloody find one. I wanted to opt out the pension scheme. I even rang Curry's up the electrical stores and said, tell me, you can't have a pension scheme, have you? And he says, we've got a great pension scheme here, kid. So I hung up on him. And you might think that's ridiculous, but it's absolutely true. And I think the saddest thing in Britain today is that following the Second World War, people assumed that the world was getting better for them, for ordinary working people. It's a normal working class characteristic that my life might be crap, but my sons and daughters and my grandsons and my granddaughters will be better than mine. And we're faced with a crevice now, aren't we? We're faced with a precipice where it isn't going to be like that, where my daughter's got a £23,000 overdraft and she hasn't got a house or a job. We're faced with a situation where the ruling class have put the debts of this country onto the people of this country that's been brought about by other people. And George Orwell said it's really important that when the ruling class and the papers write about things, they give it a name that you don't understand. So it took me 3 months to find out what friendly fire was. It took me 3 months to find out what collateral damage is. And it took me a week to find out what a technocrat is. A technocrat is an unelected leader appointed by somebody else to take your money out of your bank. So I'll finish on this early, because the situation in Britain is very clear to the ordinary working people. It might not be clear to the leadership of some unions, and it might not be clear to the leadership of the Labour Party. You don't need to say, as the leader of the Labour Party, like Ed Miliband did in June, I would cross a picket line. What you need to say is, if somebody were doing something like that to my pension, I'd be doing something about it. That's all you need to say. And I don't want John Bercow coming on the television like he did the other week, attacking people going on strike, when he's got a £40,000 a year pension for being the Speaker of the House of Commons. Not the MP's pension, that's a different pension. For being the Speaker of the House of Commons is an automatic £40,000 a year pension. And unfortunately for our class, we're going to learn a lesson over the next period. Some people tried to kid us in the 60s and 70s that the world had changed, that the bankers had changed, that capitalism had changed. Well, I'm an unreconstructed socialist. I'm not only proud of being a socialist, I am sure that's the only way we can organise the society that we live in. Absolutely positive about that. And it's no use whatsoever just making the bankers the target. You've got to say what the bankers are doing. The old saying from the 1920s that what the anti-trade union legislation and the Tory party are about is tying the hands of the ordinary working people while you mug them and take the money out of the pockets. That's exactly what that legislation is about. We need to ignore that legislation. We need to say to our people, there are lessons to be learnt. And David Cameron's learnt them lessons. David Cameron went to school, at a school that teaches them lessons. Because if there's one class in this country that understands class solidarity, it's his class. They spend 13 years at Eton understanding that. And it's our job over the next period to explain to our people, the 99%, that our class can be solid, our class can get rid of their society and bring in a decent society. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Look, if you look at the top of society in Europe today, you look at the acrimony, the resignations, I think we have to understand that it's down to the brothers and sisters in Greece, the generalised strike action, the examples of workers' power that we've heard about, that have forced the resignations, not just in Greece, but Italy as well, that have got them at each other's throats, got them falling out. That's where we aim to get to in the next few months. Sorry. What we're seeing is a generalised movement growing across the world. We see the Occupy movement, the growing generalised strike action. And the inspiration is Tunisia and Egypt, the occupations and the strike action which broke down those regimes. And in Britain, we're at the beginning of that process, aren't we? We had the mass strike in June, and we've got the general public strike, general sector public strike on the 30th of November. But what I want to talk about is the diversity of the movement, because it's something like we've never seen before. We've got the militancy of the students, the imagination and vibrancy of UK Uncut, and the power of the working class together. And this is what the government's determined to break. This is why you see the propaganda trying to, it's the same old lies, divide black, white, private sector, public sector, white, female, able-bodied, disabled. This is what they're trying to do. You think they couldn't stoop any lower, but today they've announced they're going to attack those on long-term sick benefit. However, last week, when they truncheoned Sparks, who were trying to join the student demonstration, they visited upon the Sparks the same treatment that they gave to the students a year ago. And that order came from on high. They are frightened at that kind of unity, students and workers coming together. And what we need to work out is how we link, as John MacDonald says, that industrial action with a direct action. In my own workplace, we've got a national strike ballot against a 2.5% increase that was imposed upon us. The ballot, unfortunately, is going to be too late to coordinate action on the 30th, but we could coordinate action with the Sparks. That's the way we need to be thinking. December the 6th, aerospace workers and Sparks coming out together. In practice, in Unite, in my region, London and Eastern, what we've done is we've won an argument about twinning private and public sector workplaces. What we're going to have is bus garages twinning the schools, car plants and aerospace plants twinning the hospitals. My aerospace plant is twinned with the Luton and Dunstable Hospital, so on the 30th we'll have people going down to those picket lines and making practical links with health workers. On the 30th as well, we're going to have a mass demonstration of Sparks somewhere in the City of London. We don't know quite yet what site we're going to close down, but once the sites have been closed, you're going to have not a flying picket, but a roaming demonstration, a couple of hundred Sparks across the City of London, visiting picket lines, visiting hospitals, visiting schools and civil service workplaces, helping build the solidarity and build the confidence. You think about St Paul's, another example, a fantastic example. It's not only brought the imagination, it sparked people's imagination. What it's also done is it showed the bankruptcy finance capital. It's brought the question of democracy into the centre of debate. But more importantly than that, it's become a centre of resistance. About 4 or 5 weeks ago, we had demonstrators from the occupation come down to Blackfriars where there was a Sparks protest. They showed those Sparks how to link arms, how to shut down the site, how to stop deliveries, and gave confidence to over 100 Sparks not to go to work that day. You can see the practical unity in action, and what we have to do, as John MacDonald says, is when they threaten to evict the occupation, we want construction workers, teachers, health workers linking arms around that occupation to stop the police from evicting them. What we have to understand with this new movement is we are all Sparks, we are all public sector workers, we are all private sector workers, we are all students, because together we can build a genuine resistance.
Camden TUC.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much, Max. Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, for the vast majority, if not every single one of us in this hall, the focus over the next 11 days must be the success of the 30th of November. A great deal will hinge on the scale and militancy of the strike action by Unison members of the NUT and other teaching unions, civil servants in the PCS, and indeed amongst the managers in the civil service. But I want to take us back a little more than a year in time, since this is a session focused on the global struggle against austerity. 12 to 13 months ago, the streets of France, week in and week out, witnessed huge demonstrations. And what was the issue? An increase in the retirement age, which the regime of Nicolas Sarkozy was attempting to impose on the French working class. I think there are some important lessons, both positive and negative, to be learned from that particular struggle for the 30th of November and beyond. Because I think there are very few of us in this room who have illusions that N30 in and of itself will secure a victory, a real victory in the pension struggle, much less start to turn the tide against the Condemn Coalition's offensive on behalf of neoliberalism and on behalf of finance capital. So the balance sheet. On the plus side, we saw industrial workers involved. We saw pickets outside oil refineries. We also saw secondary school students shut down and occupy the lycée. And it seems to me a no-brainer that very, very few trade union leaders in this country have put forward the argument that the retirement age should not be increased, not least because there's a crisis of youth unemployment with more than 1 million young people aged 18 to 24 out of jobs. The French secondary school students spontaneously saw that raising the retirement age would only worsen the problem of youth unemployment. So we saw a multi-ethnic, multiracial struggle in France, and it carried on for weeks with a degree of militancy which frankly we've not seen in this country yet, and indeed for a very, very long time indeed. Since, let's face it, most of us who are leading struggles in the unions at the moment are steeped in defeats over the last quarter century, 30 years in Britain. Now, what happened in France? Well, at the end of the day, I think the French working class actually inflicted a major wound on Sarkozy, but did not win the immediate struggle. The retirement age was raised. And why was that? I think that's because the failure, the refusal of the leaderships of the main union confederations in France to actually escalate the struggle to general strike proportions on a sustained basis. We're a long, long way away from that at the moment in Britain. But if the 30th of November is a resounding success, that will undoubtedly boost the confidence of ordinary workers to come out again, as they will have to do, just to secure a pensions victory, I believe, early in the new year. And with that in mind, I would strongly urge any interim steering committee that emerges from this convention to bring forward the date for the next meeting from March of 2012 to late January or February of 2012 and give us the opportunity to actually argue the way forward. Because it's not going to come from the likes of Dave Prentice. That is only too clear. And in fact, while we have recently, this week, from the National Union of Teachers Executive, a clear position about a rolling programme of strikes, it's crucial that that debate be broadened out across the whole movement, starting from the base. Thank you very much.
Lawrence Durrant, and I've worked for the NHS for quite a long time. And I left the Royal College of Nursing for the simple reason that whenever there was a dispute between us and the employer, the RCN would just come in and say, well, we are going to get involved, but not to fight your cause, but to slower your whatever onslaught that we're going to get. The NHS was going to, the Royal College of Nursing was going to slower the process, not stop the onslaught that we're being persecuted for. And I must say that Unison, as far as I'm concerned, up until from 2003 I've been a member of Unison, I haven't seen anything that Unison has done for me or for anybody else for that matter. And so I'm completely disillusioned about that. However, having listened to a few Unison members who actually do something sort of productive in their workplace, I'm really optimistic, because the NHS is kind of like the second love of my life, if I can put it that way. Some people are passionate about things, and I'm passionate about the NHS. I'm sorry to say that, because I know that it is the backbone of this country. I've been to many places in this world, and part of the place was in America, where actually I saw a person collapsed in front of a hospital. I had just gone to see the hospital, and the doctors and nurses were there, and they would not attend to that person because he couldn't produce his insurance. And I'm thinking, well, this is exactly where we're going. I was just reading not so long ago a document that we actually get called GP, and there is a hospital apparently in Cambridgeshire that's already been sold to private enterprise for 12 years. And I'm sorry to say that you guys ain't seen nothing yet, because we're already experiencing it. I work in isolation. One thing that I like about most speakers, what they say today, was that this is not the struggle, this is a conference. The struggle is out there, and I'm forever on my own, banging my head against a brick wall. And I must say, I'm proud to say I'm making a lot of change, more than a lot of conferences I've ever done, because I fight with GPs, I fight with, as you call them, we'll say technocrats. Technocrats are just placed there to actually stop you doing your job, make your job impossible, and subsequently they say it's not working, and they crash that. So that is part of my contribution. And if there's any unison activists here who think they can come into my workplace and help me, I'd be quite happy for you to come in, because there's a lot that's happening that you need to know about.
You know, I saw something in the media recently when it was the run-up to the pension strike, and it was a load of kind of twaddle really written in The Guardian or the BBC or something, where a load of well-meaning middle-class journalists said, oh, but you shouldn't spoke over pensions because it makes you look very like it's just self-interested. Why don't you strike over cuts? And we have to be clear here, the point why we're not striking over cuts is because David Cameron handed the cuts to the councils. Each council makes a different cut, so we cannot strike across the board over cuts. This obviously is something, the pensions is something we can approach on a national level, but what I think we really need to start thinking about is what a previous speaker was talking about, which is breaking the anti-union laws and starting to look at the fact that, you know, we had Labour for 15 years, you know, the anti-union laws came in, we had Labour for 15 years, they never touched these anti-union laws, and, you know, this actually comes to the point where we've actually got to think about this in the coming period, about how we actually break them. I think the only way we're going to break them is the way in which black people broke the bus boycott in the 1950s or anything else. We make them unworkable, which means that every time we go out on strike, we break anti-union laws left, right and centre, so it becomes a point where it's made a mockery of continuously and continuously and continuously, and we should not be held back by this. And the more we break them, the more we can turn around to our trade union leaders, and when they start going, oh well, you know, this, that and the other, and say, do you know what, if we say sod the anti-union laws, why are you not doing that as well? So we need to, and I think we can start actually on November the 7th. A friend of mine who works in LSE and is in Unison told me yesterday that they were not going to be officially on strike because they were not in the pension scheme. I say when a demonstration goes past LSE in London, we should be arguing with people and just trying to pull them out of work. You know, we should be saying to people, look, let's just start having picket lines, we need to start hardening up here, we need to start having flying pickets. These things need to be put right back on the agenda, because ultimately, you know, when the government tries to evict people out of their homes, makes up new laws as they go along, then it's our time to start not playing by their little sensible rules anymore.
I'm the branch secretary in Tower Hamlets of Unison, and we've talked this afternoon about unity, both between public and private, but also internationally, about how we face common problems and a common enemy. And that's a process. But in a process, you face important moments. Locally in Tower Hamlets, the two most important events we had this year was the 30th March, when in Unison and the NUT we struck together in the first coordinated strike action in Britain, along with Teaching and UT, and that was an important moment. On the 3rd of September we had another important moment, when the EDL said they would come to our borough, which they said was the Muslim centre of Britain, and that they were going to march for our borough. And we came together and we stopped the EDL, and in those two moments I think you see both the possibilities and the dangers that we face. But the 30th of November is the biggest moment we faced in Britain for many years. And we talk internationally, but we have a responsibility for what we fight for locally, because that has a backwash. In Egypt, in Greece, in Italy, people will be looking to see how we bear up to the Cameron government. And over the next 11 days, there'll be attempts to divide us. Things like the Sun today, claiming we don't have a mandate to strike. Well, what mandate does this government have? Elected with no mandate at all. What mandate do the technocrats have, and yet they dare lecture us? And we'll have attempts to divide us by age. They'll try and say people over 50 are protected. And one of the things I've most been impressed with in the meetings I've been speaking at day after day in the last weeks is this. People who are over 50 saying it's not just about us, it's not I'm a white Jack, it's about the pensions of the generations that follow us. Other people fought for what we have to make sure we fight for what follows us. But there aren't just people trying to divide us, there will be people who try to play down on our side. I was amazed to see a surplus from Surtuck which said that we were going to have a rally outside our town hall from 12 to 2 on the 30th of November. That's news to us. We're not having a rally, and I'll tell you why we're not having a rally. Because we want to march together with all the other unions on strike into the heart of government to take on the Cameron government. I'll tell you what we are going to do on the day. We're not just going to have our picket lines, but on every major road running to our hamlets, we will have pickets out on the main roads. We will have planners across the Blackwall Tunnel. We'll make sure that everybody knows there is a strike going on. And once we picket on our own, we're going to come together in groups in that area, and we are going to go together to march straight to the government. That's what we have to do in every town and every city. The 30th of March has to be a day of massive activity that sends a message to our side that we are strong together, and sends a message to their side, we are not going to put up with it, we're fighting to win.